The Uprising is more than just the set name this week. Not only are we delayed to no fault of Legend Story Studios, it is, what do they call it? Supply chain issues. The Uprising in the judges at events. Oh, I can't wait to hear this and get into the juicy details this week on Outcast Haven Podcast. So I heard the rumblings. I've seen the stuff, seen the talks. I personally, and yes, I'm going to use the term victim, a victim of an IP penalty for putting in Mage Master boots into my deck because I completely changed the whole outcome of the game and get an IP3 penalty. I'm curious to hear all the exciting stuff from the recap of this last weekend.
Yeah. So here's the question. Do we want to start with like the good stuff, the Vegas recap, the excitement, the world premiere, the team calling, and then kind of move into some of the things? Because we got a couple. We're going to go negative first.
Chronological as it happened.
So let's start with, for us, like the positive / hilarious, right? We as a team, we ended up 3-3. We were 3-2. Things were going well. We actually had a split at the time. We were 1-1. We needed the outcome. The outcome of the last game determined us going to 4-2. Our teammate Robert he got brooded this weekend. Let's just say that Robert likes to play Runeblade. This weekend he got brooded. He had a round where he took 7 damage off of Beast Within, and then Dane is, I think, going to tell us a story because he's so excited. But Robert's last loss was one of the most painful losses in Flesh and Blood history. I am convinced of it.
Dude, okay, so it's funny. Robert's actually sending me the name of the guy right now because I want to be able
His name's Charlie. I remembered it.
Yes.
His name's Charlie.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Charlie Thatch. This was the highlight of my weekend just because of this guy's reaction. So he's playing Oldham. Robert has 20 cards in deck. There are 12 misses in that entire deck that are not non-attack actions, so that if he Beast Withins, that he'll miss out, right? 8 are in his discard. 1 is on the board. He has 3 in his deck. Okay? 20 card deck. We counted it afterwards. 20 card deck. He's going into Oldham. Oldham has 2 cards left in hand after the first attack, right? And Robert plays, or after the Intimidates, Robert plays and discards the Beast Within. 20 cards in deck. Robert's on 3 life. This Oldham's on 4 life. Top deck's the first one. Non-attack action.
Life.
Charlie, at this point, we find out afterwards, doesn't know what's happening. He didn't realize that Beast Within was discarded. So, as Robert ticks his life down, Charlie kind of gives a little look. Robert goes to flip the next one. Now, 19 cards left in deck, 2 are misses. Non-attack action. Loses a life, goes down to 1 life. There are 18 cards in deck. There is 1 miss left in deck. Flips it. Non-attack action. Loses the game. My favorite part is Charlie, the super reserved, quiet dude, goes, I couldn't have blocked. He holds out his hand. He had, what was it? It was
Endless Winter Timber.
And Turn Timber. He couldn't have blocked the attack, and Robert would have won if any of those. So, like, Robert made the right play, right? Because there's no way that you know that. But Charlie, we find out after the fact, is like the most quiet guy because he's from Hidden Fortress. If any of you guys have played the online armories there, yeah. They were a big like online armory proponent. They still have them going too, actually. But it was insane because we find out that he like would open cold foils and be like, oh, okay, yeah. Like he's just like that guy that's just like super quiet. And he jumped up and he was like, I couldn't have blocked. It was the most fucking hilarious. It was like one of those moments where tables around you stop what they're doing and turn around like, did someone open a Fable? Like, this isn't sealed. What is happening? It was fucking wild. Yeah. It was so much fun. Never has it.
That Saturday?
Yeah, that was Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Never has it felt so good to like eat a loss and move on with our day as that in that interaction. Like the whole team event was so much fucking fun. Like we had so much fun with it.
I don't know if that falls under positive or negative. I'm going to go with positive just because the outcome is amazing there and you're just not going to see it. It's great. So let's go negative now, because Blake told me a little tidbit of a story about our first DQ from Friday in a non-competitive event. Okay, let's just be honest. Pre-release is a fun event. That's not competitive, correct? That's just have fun, talk trash with your opponents. It's a pre-release. It's a pre-release.
Yeah, this one was rough on all accounts. So we have a guy locally. He's a good guy, Darren. Genuinely, he has a habit that's I find funny. He always does it beforehand, but you'll sit down and he goes, "Would you like to concede?" And he says it the second you sit down before he even confirms your name because he finds it funny. And you're allowed to do it. Just so we're clear, it's clearly a joke. He doesn't want you to concede. So Darren always has fun. He's a great guy to play with. We have a ton of fun playing with him. Whenever I played him, it's been positive experiences and great games. He was playing in the world premiere in the second round, played against a guy, and they were about to go to time. Everybody who won, you got a pack per win, which you don't want anybody to miss out. So he said, what if we roll a die just for one of us to win? He didn't care about the
one of us to get the pack. Like that was like what he pointed out. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't care about getting a win. He was happy to take a 50-50 shot at losing the pack so long as someone got the pack. And I understand that theoretically you could be considered asking for concession or whatever you want to call it. The problem is he wasn't doing anything in a competitive event that was like this wasn't a competitive event. It wasn't like he wasn't trying to persuade him for money. He wasn't saying, "Hey man, how about I give you $5 to give me that win so I can get that pack of Uprising?" He said, "Hey, how about some 50-50 chance we roll a die, see who gets it?" The guy gave him a bunch of attitude. "I'm a store owner. I get rules." Whatever, man. Okay, first off, you're part of the problem because why did you even have to rat him out? What a snitch. What a rat. Like that's just. I hate that first off. Second off, then Darren goes to round 3. He's just annoyed by this guy who is captain of the fun police, just trying to make sure nobody enjoys their experience and gets a pack when they could. And the judge comes over and says, "Hey, can I talk to you, Darren?" Darren says, "Sure, I'm happy to talk to you. What's up?" He goes, "When did you ask him to roll the dice? When did you ask him to sort this out?" Darren goes, "Well, we were about done with time. I just figured one of us could get the pack." To his credit, he was honest about it. I think a lot of people would have just lied and said whatever they could to try. "Oh, I didn't ask him for a concession. What are you talking about? His word against mine. Prove it. Whatever." I don't know. But he was honest about it, which Darren always is. He has no problem being honest. He's a straightforward guy. And the judge goes, "I'm going to have to disqualify you from the event."
Which something right
seems
now.
A little excessive.
It's so excessive.
I probably, if that was me, and you guys who could attest to this, I'm going to go through my exact reaction after this happens, because I would do the same thing in that type of event. I would offer the same, let's roll for the win to get the pack. I 100% would. So that judge would come over to me and I'd say, "Excuse me?" And he would tell me I'm DQ'd. I'd be like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? You're going to fucking DQ me from an event because I offered for us to get a pack? I didn't ask for a concession. Are you that fucking stupid right now? Are you that fucking stupid?" And all of a sudden you would see me on the Flesh and Blood bands, and it'd be like, Jason,
it would be
1 to
like
2 year competitive ban. Because once I get going, I can't stop.
It'd be like the end.
Said something that I would feed off of, and it's like a fucking I just would keep going. Use logic.
It'd be like the end of a Cops episode. Jason be yelling, getting his head pushed down into the car. Like, "You're fucking
They would have walked
me."
me out.
I don't get it at all. I really don't. I don't understand. Yeah, it felt like there were a lot of those. Like there were way too many disqualifications this weekend and penalties.
This ties into my major. Remind me when we're talking about the other disqualifications that came up. I have my big gripe with all of it is tied directly into this and my feelings on this. So
chronological order. I'll go to the Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I am standing behind. They have this tape off area, and it instead of being like this, it's got an angle so you can be closer. Everybody's being quiet and respectful while we're watching. A judge comes over for no fucking reason and pulls one of the stanchions out to like make you get like another 8 feet away so you can't even see the game anymore that they're playing. And it was one of the top 4 tables for no reason, just for no. I'm like, "Are you?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "Are you kidding? What is the reasoning behind this?" He wouldn't say a word. I'm like, Please tell me what the reasoning behind this is. Not saying a word. Just like our judges here in Minnesota are fucking amazing. We have a couple Chris's, Eric, Dane is okay, probably on the lower scale of all the. We had issues in the beginning, bad rulings that fixed out as a community. We hashed them out, figured it out, took care of it. I am truly convinced if you wear a yellow shirt while judging, you're just a douchebag. I mean, I don't know if it's something in the material that soaks through your body and you're just like,
it's like Darth Vader. You're just like the suit makes it so that you're in agony. Like that's part of the suit. Like it's part of the function is to like make you irritated. Like, just like Vader.
People are going to bitch. Oh, but they're judging their time. You know what? I've seen the prizes they get. I see the awards they get and how much they're selling this shit for. They're getting paid for it. So when you get paid for something, 100% we can bitch about it.
You literally get paid $10 an hour plus pricing. So I'm just saying it's not like they're doing it for free.
Genuinely, the only thing I think that could solve this is if James White just like gathers the stable of judges and is like, I'm doing a personal interview with you. I want to see what type of personality you have. Short of that, I feel like you're always just going to have dicks that want power that are in it.
Right. So here's the thing. My big gripe with the whole situation is that I get that you're gonna have people.
Let's go into the situation. Let's start there.
Okay,
let's start with like what happened.
Bust one out, Blake.
Yeah, we've got a number of them. So
you reached out. So just to be clear, Blake did like legit research, which we never do. Blake was like, I'm contacting these people. Like we're getting some fucking info. So
what word did you use? I just want to look it up on Google. What was the word? Research.
I would So I'm messaging, okay, just for reference for everybody here. I'm messaging on my phone like crazy, like talking back and forth. A couple of guys. I talked to a guy at the event. If they want to, I'll mention it to them. Hey, we talked about it, but I didn't give your names. If they want to come into the comments and clarify who it is, that's fine. I'm not going to say names just because I don't want to put people out there that don't want to be out there or don't want any issues, right? But so I'm messaging. I met one of the guys in Vegas. And he said, yeah, it was one of my friends or somebody I know who got disqualified. So I asked him to put me in contact with that person because I thought, I want to know what's going on. I don't just want to get on here and blast. So we want to be very clear. This is not us going, well, we heard about this thing that happened, and with no information, we are going to throw a fit. I actually told my wife, she goes, she's like, who are you messaging? Like, you're really going to town. And I was messaging back and forth with these guys, asking a lot of questions. And I said, listen, this is important. I am doing some Outcast Haven investigative journalism. This is important. It's going to go on the podcast this week. I want this to be some like Dateline kind of stuff. Okay. This is top-notch stuff.
Inspector hat with a pipe in the thumbnail.
That's what I was.
That makes them. You better have it on when I see it on Friday.
Great. Now I got a lot of work. I got a lot of Photoshop work to do now. All right. Well, make sure you message me so I don't forget that. So there were some things. I'm going to give you a few things, the overview of the things that I know of that were, I think, egregious. And then we can talk about what the one specific incident. I know of two specific incidents where people were disqualified for Iowa Phidias that had a slight curve to them. One person who was disqualified for a pulse of candle hold that was slightly curved. And the most egregious of all, somebody got an IP2 for writing Dorinthia on their deck list instead of Dorinthia Iron Song.
It was on the deck list? Whoa. See, I was confused when you said that. I didn't know if it was some proxy. So somebody got an IP2 for that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. This is an honest to God question. If you wear a yellow shirt, you're probably not listening. So let's be honest. I've ripped on you guys for so long and I can't see anybody like that listening. What are you thinking that you give somebody? What are they thinking?
That one absolutely mystifies me because I genuinely don't understand what logic there is to do specifically that. Like that one to me there is discretion when it comes to judging.
No, there's not.
Anything.
There's not discretion.
Not with these,
because they said that we know you're not cheating, but that's why I want to get into that. That's my gripe. Anyway.
Okay.
Plot twist.
So, yep. So here's what we're going to talk about. So this is what specifically the incident that I talked to someone about. They were taken aside, and this situation specifically bothers me because it's a player playing Kano. I feel personally attacked by that. Not really, that's a joke. But this is a person who had a fully non-foil deck going into the event. And he said, hey, I would love to use an eye, but I don't have one. So they borrowed one specifically for the event. He put it in his deck. He sleeved it up. No problem. He played all basically throughout the day and had no issues. And then they said, hey, we need to do a deck check. And they grabbed the Kano player and they said, well, your eye has a bend to it. It's noticeably curved and we can see it from the top of the deck. Which to me, that's an issue in and of itself, because if you can see it from the top opening of the sleeve, but you can't see it from the side, how does that impact the player playing the deck's ability to target that card?
I'll even give him that. I'll even say, yeah, sure. If you can tell looking at any direction of it, because some people have their deck sideways, whatever, fine, I'll give that to you. But continue.
Yeah, but continue. So another one that stuck out to me was, to his point, isn't that every eye? Like, if you every eye that exists basically in the game, all those rainbow foil fables have a little curve to them. There's nothing you can really do about it. And people know what marked cards are. The issue is, if you lay a deck flat on the table and you can't noticeably pick out that card every single time flat, which they said you couldn't, if you laid it out with other cards, it wasn't noticeable that you could look at a run of 10 cards in a row and noticeably see the curl from above. That's an issue to me too, right? Then when they were in the back, so this was the one that stuck out to me, was that said you would basically have had to molest the deck for 20 seconds to find the general area. And even then you would miss it, just like the TO did. So he basically said, judge tried, but it took them multiple times. I think he referenced the fact that every time the judge attempted to find it, it took at least 3 attempts to find the fabled, the eye. Which again, he's like, well, I got within 5 cards every single time. Okay, it's a 40 card deck. Like 5 cards above and 5 cards below. So
you go standard middle, and you got a pretty good chance of hitting that.
Yeah,
right.
You're not far off.
You got like a
that to me, I didn't understand it. And then on top of that, I didn't understand why a full DQ. Why not a game loss and then give him specifically a game loss, or even the team a game loss for that round, and then replace it with a token at that point. But
yeah,
that's the issue, is when somebody hits within the general area but not the specific card.
So that's
a huge problem.
Can we get in? Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jason. Yep.
I just, as a Kano player, there's other cards you'd rather know their location than the Eye of Ophidia. Like
that's okay. Ready? That's my point. So that's perfect. Thank you, because that segues right into my whole gripe. Is that he said, the judge, right? Or this is, I'm going off of what Blake messaged us. The judge said that, I know you're not cheating. That's that is just how the rules are laid out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so the discretion thing is bullshit, right? You don't have discretion. Yeah. Apparently you need to apply these rules. Fuck judges, get a little judge bot, and he'll just beep boop, yes, no. And then we're done. Okay. We don't even need people, because I'll tell you what, if you look at that deck and it is 50-50 foil, and some are yellows, a couple reds, some are blues, but like not even full series or all foil or anything like that. You look at that, you're like, cool. These foils, this curl, these marked cards aren't helping you, right? Like you said, the Eye of Ophidia, not helping him. Like, okay, knowing where it's at, great. You know what's on top. That's so helpful. You're going to win now. No. Use discretion. If you look at that and you see that every foiled card is a blue, and if it's not a blue, it's not foiled, then I'd be like, okay, something a little iffy. Like, what the fuck you doing here? Like, you want to know if the top of your deck is blue or not. And I could see that, right? Use discretion. Don't be a fucking jackass, right? So that's what bothers me about it, is this whole like, oh, well, I'm not to blame. It's the rules. It's how it's written. I can't use my brain. Someone put words on paper and now I need to do this.
That's my biggest issue, is that he said, I have no discretion, and that he had to enforce the policy. And then went on to say, ignorance isn't an excuse. I know you didn't know that it was obviously curved, which again, it wasn't that obviously curved because they couldn't pick it out every single time.
I didn't know the speed limit, son. Ignorance is it? You can't claim ignorance in this law.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, and they legitimately don't have discretion, like they truly don't, like LSS said, you don't have discretion. If we catch you not applying this rule per our dictates, then you're gonna get fired and no support for you. I get that then we need to address LSS and like leaving some room for their judges that they apparently don't trust enough to give discretion to, right? That's an LSS policy thing. And I apologize to all judges if that's the case, because then that's a tough boat for you guys to be in. But if it's not the case,
there's been too many cases where they're making their discretion and come up with penalties that are not in the books. So we know that's not the case, and not from hearsay, from actually witnessing certain situations unfold at Pro Tour and at callings.
Yeah.
And the rules aren't written that way. And I'll be honest, I would have a little bit more discretion in ripping on the judges if it wasn't for every event I've been at, large event, yellow shirt judges are just rude. They're not nice. There's a way of saying, hey, can you please do this and be nice about it? Besides, like, hey, don't like, and just like you're a teacher scolding. I'm 3 years old. Don't talk to me like that. I mean, I
will say, I want to point out too that, like, not sure if you picked up on it, we're not looking to be coddled. Like, Jason's not bitching because someone was mean to him. Like, that's not what's happening right now. He just wants other adults to not be abrasive and to treat him also like an adult.
Yeah.
That's what we expect. That's what we expect.
It's a classic example of like somebody in authority overstepping their bounds, and then they're like upset that you get critical of them, right? Like bosses who create toxic work environments, people going, well, you're a terrible boss. They're like, hold on a minute. It doesn't matter what I'm like. I'm your boss and I'm in charge. You're like, no, that's not how it works. You have to treat people with respect. If you expect people to be respectful back to you, if you want people to be okay with you as judges, you shouldn't have people, because this was another thing they pointed out, was they were on one of the top tables, and then the next day, one of the DQs was literally in the top tables on a team that was headed to the top 4. It got DQ'd from the event for it. So you had people who had a Kano player, and they were over there frantically trying to make sure their eye wasn't bent. They're like laying it down, bending it. I'm like, they have a $300 card that they're going like this to, for fear of God that they're going to lose it. Because again, I want these events to be like held to a very high standard from a judging sense. I don't want cheaters. I don't want rule sharks. I don't want any of that to exist in the game. But I also don't want people fearing that the money they're about to win is going to be taken from them by somebody who's overstepping their bounds and basically stealing money. Because that's the thing, like these judges overstepping their bounds, this isn't a tournament where people are like, oh, hey, here's a cool foil card that's worth $30. Like, they're losing thousands of dollars. They spent money to travel there and are on the brink of winning thousands of dollars in prizes. And it was just snatched from them by a judge who's like, nope, DQ'd, card's a little curled. And I'm sorry, but here's my thing. Freezing cold take of the week. I'm not even going to say the name because he knows who the hell he is. Oh, let this be a lesson to you to not play foil cards in your deck. They make them. They come in the packs, man. They come in the packs. Why would you make a product I can't use? What sense does that make? It's like, so I know we gave you your card with that. I'm not going to say who said it because he's going to complain in the comments already.
He's going to bitch anyways.
He's going to, yeah.
God knows we won't hear about it unless it's in the comments. So
unless it's in the comments, nobody's going to send me a message because they got an issue with it when they know who I am and I played.
You know what I'm going to do from now on? I am going to have the sounder with Cartman, respect my authority, and I'm going to have that ready from that episode. Anytime somebody does that, you're going to be like, respect my authority.
I just don't. I just don't.
I say you just say it. That sounds good. It's a good impression.
I don't understand the world where somebody goes like, well, you shouldn't use foil cards. You should make your whole deck non-foil. So when I buy a car and I drive it off the lot, should I just get brand new tires because they're not good tires? They're good, but they're not great. Like there's an alternative version of them, but they're not like, what are we talking about here? Like what should we be doing? Right? Like, should I take the tint off and put different tint on? Like I don't understand a world
buy all
where
white cards and you're done with it.
I don't. My brain is broken.
All right. Anyways,
yeah,
I think that we hammered that. Jason,
that's fine. Yeah,
I think it comes down to one thing. Back in the day, and this is why I don't manage anymore. I was a manager of a U.S. bank, and it's like being a high school teacher. And I was I'm not like I am on here. I was very nice, like helped, did all kinds of stuff. Had an assistant manager come in, very young, and they need to respect me. No, you have to earn that. And people need to realize, no matter if you're wearing a yellow shirt or not, you don't just get respect. That's not how the fucking world works. You need to earn it. And you earn that by being an adult, having civilized conversations, using your brain, adult brain, and being nice to people. I know I come off
you
as
don't
very
even need to
abrasive,
be nice. Just be polite.
but I come off
at a
abrasive on here.
minimum.
But
Yeah.
ask anybody who meets me in person. I'm nice. I like to have fun, rile people up. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to hear that stuff because you don't want to see good players get penalized for some stupid shit. And when there's real cheating, the community knows. It's easy to point out, and the ban hammer comes down on you. These incidents,
sometimes.
Well,
these incidents were not real cheating.
Yeah, I think the other because the other thing that happened this weekend that kind of overshadowed, because that's the unfortunate thing to me. Overall, this weekend was amazing. I had a blast. I've never 3-3 dropped from a tournament and missed a top cut where I was happy and okay with what happened. I had a ton of fun playing Uprising. There were boxes available for people who are, psychopaths and want to spend unnecessary money, like our group, who drafted and played sealed Uprising probably like 7 times this week at least, outside of the main events.
I was counting. I think we got 9 boxes between the 6 of us, and just like played sealed and draft. Like would go back to the hotel room after dinner and just like
it was
fucking awesome.
It was an amazing event. The World event is always a cool event. I love sitting at the table, opening cards with people I've just met, playing games with people and talking to them about it. I got to know so many people through that event, and then it gets overshadowed by like these dumb things. And then and it's not even just here, right? We had some issues, but then the other big thing that I'm interested in your guys' opinions about this weekend happened in Sydney, which of course was 3 of the top 4 teams at the Sydney Calling had a developer on them. Shouldn't they just never be seen in public?
Hold on, I gotta go get my pitchfork quick.
Yeah. So here's my only thoughts on that. If it was all brand new cards, I'm like, ooh, they have a huge advantage. This is a pretty old blitz meta. Like
that's exactly my point.
The advantage is over now. They're just very good players. And a lot of them, like Jacob, he was on the winning team, correct?
Yeah.
Pearson?
Yep.
He was winning shit before he was a developer. So it's not like he suddenly got good because he became a developer. He's good, right? They're just good players.
Speaking of good and just being good players, Blake, I know you like to tell the story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we talked to Dave. Our buddy Dave was there at the Sydney Calling and watching it. I loved the stories of Jason Chung. These things, this is like the stuff of legend. Jason showed up on Saturday without a team with his Kano deck in tow, and then grabbed a guy who'd been playing for like 3 weeks and a guy who'd been playing for less than 2 months and said, "Hey, do you want to play on my team? If you're those guys, that's easy money." You go, "Yes." Do I need to pay for my entry fee, or how does that work? Like, where do I give it to you? What deck should I play? Give me my 40 and my sideboard. And he basically told them, I will tell you what to do. Just trust me. And at one point, Dave said he was watching Jason Chung do things with Kano that blew his mind, which is impressive because Dave is a wizard machine. He is
Dave is the person that has worked on wizard lists with, or it was a wizard list with.
He's worked with Alex a bunch of times.
Alex, he helped like Yuki and him, right?
Yep. Yeah.
He works on winning lists basically.
Yeah, with good players.
And so with this guy who has tons of wizard experience and is like the wizard king.
Second in our pro quest with Dave's list.
Yeah. Dave is like amazing.
And that was
Anyways.
with Lexi. I was playing for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So back to Dave. Dave being the perspective we're in right now. Go ahead, Blake.
So Dave is watching Jason, and his mind is blown. He's like, "This is insane." Jason is playing Jason this Kano deck. Yeah, Jason Chung once again is watching him play, and Dave is just blown away by the plays, and then realizes that he is not only playing his deck, he is basically playing the other 2 decks, and he is pitch tracking all 3 decks. He knows exactly what's happening in all 3 decks simultaneously, and he carried them. Just put him on his back, and he said, "Boys, let's get some gold foils on Daddy."
Which is so fucking wild.
Yeah. So he carried him, which I love. My thoughts on the thing are very simple. I have told plenty of a person this. My thought is very simple. If you are a competitor, you look at someone and go, "They are too good. They shouldn't be allowed to play." You're soft. You are so soft and so weak. And if you want to combat me about that, come at me in the comments. Fight me on Discord. I will play you in a game because I am not soft. I would kill for the shot at Jason Chung. I would kill for a shot at Newson Zhang. Like anybody who works for LSS, I will gladly get my teeth kicked in by them because you're going to lose anyway, right? Like, if you're that soft, you're losing anyway. Like, you're complaining at Arbories because some guy's bringing Starvo. You're like, "Oh, he's bringing Starvo. That's why he's winning. Not because I play bad deck and am no good." So, like, you're getting your teeth kicked anyway. Might as well get your teeth kicked in by Jason Chung and be like, "Man, it's not that I'm bad. It's that Jason's good. I'm not bad."
The only time that I would say they were allowed to bitch is if it was like an RTN a week after Uprising's out.
Yeah,
And they
like if it's a
brand
brand new
set. Right. Then they had a huge competitive advantage of knowing the cards. This was not a competitive advantage of card knowledge. It was a competitive advantage of they're really good players. That's what they are. And you should have took notes while you were playing them. And it was a blitz calling, and I know the prizes were still really good, but it was a fun event. Everybody that I've heard from loved this event. Loved it. That it was a blast. I think it would be cool to do this in CC one time. And it doesn't even have to be a calling. It can be a battle hardened on a Sunday or
team events for life, man. That team event.
Yeah,
that was so much goddamn fun.
So much fun.
Having 3 minds is just it. With you guys talking about it, it reminded us when we were getting together at Game Center and we'd run games and it might be 3-on-1 for some games. Honest to God, sometimes it was 3 minds against 1 trying to beat a deck, like going through. And I always, when we practice like that, I always don't tell my decision. I make my decision, then you make your decision, then we'll talk about our decisions, right? You know, just how do you try to get better? So the fact that you can do that in a competitive event and get that input. And I think with a CC game, you could really start to play mind tricks if they could hear you. So you could I just think that's a good, solid event because as a team, you can easily do the mind trick part of it, which has me even more enticed when you can talk about stuff and sure they can, your opponent hears it. And just to mess with them a little bit. Oh God, I would love it. I would love a CC event.
You know what the best part was, right? I'm just going to say forever that the best part of it was one of my losses. It was totally Dane's fault. So
that's fair. I finished first on Kasai. I did really well. I was
never ever say again. I finished first on Kasai. Okay, never say that.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. No, so I'm really proud of us as a team, but I'm really proud of myself too with like my personal record because I only lost to an Icelander I've never played into an Icelander deck that was any good. Yeah. And then I lost into a Briar that high rolled the fuck out of me. Other than that, I was 4-2. So I felt great. One of my matches, I finished first on Kasai, and Blake's playing Kano next to me in the middle, and then Robert is on the far end playing Rhinar. I go over to Blake and Blake's like, "Dude, I don't know. Like, I could go for it right now." And I was like, "Well, what's your stat? Are you back to your stack? Do you know what's coming, or are you still just kind of blinding it?" He's like, "I think I got a good odd of winning if I just like go for it here." He's got a handful of blues. I'm like, "Well, what are the odds you get a handful of blues next hand?" He's like, You like weren't sure if you were gonna start drawing into your reds or not.
I was pretty sure.
So
I said,
I said, go for it, and then I made my way down to Robert, and then Robert's looking at his hand, and he's got
the first one. He's like, "Damn it! I should have marked better."
So I go down to Robert, and he's like, "Dude, I don't like." He's doing the same thing, and I'm like, "You know what, Robert? You play Kano or you play Reinar because you want to RNG, right?" It's like, odds are you top deck the 6, like, right? Because I looked through his discard or whatever he had, and he had a lot of non-6s in there already. So I was like, okay, odds are pretty high that you're going to top deck draw the 6 and go and like finish. So do that. They both lost. So I proceeded to not give any advice the rest of the time. I was like, I think that my decision was right for both of them, but also you both.
Yeah.
You should just stick to finishing first on Kasai. I mean, that sounds like your best.
Dude, she was super
plan.
fun, man. I had a blast.
It sounds like it.
I will say, in Dane's defense, I was literally a resource short. If I ended up drawing 2 cards and I drew a blue and a yellow, and if I had drawn a blue, I would have had the resources to pay for nodes, which kills him. But I was 1 resource short from the nodes that killed him, so he lived at 1 and then killed me.
I want, you know how Kano players always love to, like, a little tangent, how Kano players always love to say like our turn and like funny jokes like that about, or like big galaxy brain and stuff like that. I want to get a counter Kano mat that just says, oh, I bet you were 1 resource short. The amount of times I've heard a Kano player say, oh, I was 1 resource short, or oh, the math just doesn't work, as I'm like, yeah, so you lose. So instead of that phrase, you could just say, I lose. Say that. No, I was so close.
Man,
if I had 1 more resource.
I like the 1 resource.
It's
I was
just
1 resource short.
I was 1 resource short. Just get that shit on a shirt. I was 1 resource short.
I was 1 resource short. I will say my proudest win was, I take great pride in my Kano ability. Everybody knows that. I like to believe that I am the like sorcerer supreme in the world of Kano as much as can be. When I play other Kanos, I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure I win those matches specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a ton of fun. In the last round I played, we sat down and she immediately flexed on me when she flipped a rainbow foil young Kano. And I felt so disrespected because that's the only wizard card in existence that I do not have in foil. The only one, because it's like $250 and I just can't, I don't know anyone with one that I can trade one for. So it kills me that I don't have foil young Kano, but just, I'm not going to drop that kind of money on it unless I open some crazy card that I can sell and then rebuy that.
Almost
she
like
flipped
if you
it
had
over,
like a safe of cold foils that you're never going to touch. If only that
That's
existed.
fair. That's fair. I might have to do that. So she flipped it over and immediately I felt disrespected. And I was just like, man, I have to win this game big because I need to take my pride back, because she took my like Kano manhood, like immediately was like, hey, you see this card, loser. So I Toma Fyandal'd her and then killed her and won 20-0 in Kano and Blitz in a mirror, which just, I felt it felt good to do it after I was flexed on so hard. Just,
I'm glad it felt good. Like,
I needed to be vindicated. I was like, no, this is not okay. Yeah, but
yeah, that match was fun. Like that
round,
because that was that same round that Robert lost to. That the people from Hidden Fortress were a blast.
Hidden Fortress round, yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was really good games and they were fun to play with, and it was a good time. So, I mean, I think that's most of what we want to talk about. But I think before we end, we have to talk about Uprising, right? Like now that we've seen some cards, Dane and I have played a lot of games of Sealed. Great, it's limited. Jason, I know, has been playing TTS with Body a bunch, and they've been working on decks and trying to figure things out. What are your guys' Uprising thoughts?
So I actually put a community post out today, and I want to see what the results of that ended up being.
Well, you go that.
No.
So I think I'm not going to play Fi because Fi is Fi. It just, I don't know how else to say that. He's going to do very aggro stuff very easily without as much thought. Playing Icelander, you can control the hell out of it. You just can't. The build is really, really hard to figure out right now. A lot of close games, but can't finish them because you can't control NA. It's just a weird balance that will take a little while to work on. I'm really intrigued with Dromai because it's not an easy deck, but it's got some huge potential, and I think it's going to be kind of a setup / combo deck. So
I think it's gonna be tempo-y like Prism. Like
I don't think you can't tempo with it.
You don't think?
Especially
so?
like no, because there's just
what do
going
you
to
do
be
with it?
well, you have to do setup with some combo turns because you have to get your dragons out, but they can all be popped. So you can't just like willy-nilly throw stuff out. So you do have to get a little bit of setup because you do want some board presence like Prism with like piercings and passing rod, like different cards like that, different auras to muddy up the waters while you're making your ash wings at the same time.
Okay.
It's from and somebody could be like, no, that's not how you play. From the games I've started playing, that's how it is. Because when you just try to go at somebody's face, it's just like Prism. If you go Heralds, they just start popping them, and you get nowhere, and you die.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to block and set up. So I just think it's I don't know. I think there's potential to be a really fun high skill level deck.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I guess. I don't know, man. Like, you've played it. I haven't played CC of it, but I imagine that Dromai and her dragons are probably harder to deal with than Prism and her auras. You know what I mean?
See, it's interesting
So
because
you can just pop them.
Oh,
All the
yeah. I
dragons
mean,
are
you can just pop auras too.
No,
Well,
but the problem is
no.
Spectral
You
Shield is
can't-
the problem.
Yeah. Well, you can't pop a Spectral Shield and end the turn with like a 6. Which is I think that's the most interesting thing, is that not having the access to the boots is such a huge difference. Because if Dromai makes a dragon and then swings at you with the dragon and you just go, cool, block with a 6, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, my dragon dies.
So many
and my turn is
dragons
over.
get around that though. They got Chromai that gives you action points that just let you have, like, no matter what. Like, if you swing with Chromai and they pop it, you now have 3 action points.
Right, but that's why it's a setup deck. You don't
It's not
just
set up. That's just play it when you see it. Right?
So if you just play 1/3 attack, what good does that do you?
Well, how do you have 3 action points from Chromite popping?
Chromai, you get an action point when it swings and when it leaves the board. So if it swings, you get an action point. If it leaves the board, you get an action point. Well, so 2.
You get 2, yeah. Which is fine, but like then if after that, if that's the dragon that's out and then you go Ashwing, pass, it's like
you cost 1
like,
though, so like you've still got a hand. So okay, I see what you're saying about setup.
I just think
there's also the dragon that is basically the is it not Pierce Reality? That's +2. It takes Phantasm away from your first. Yeah, it's a passing Mirage dragon. Mirage Eye.
Yeah. I'll call Murray. So Murray the dragon, your first dragon attack, each turn loses and can't gain Phantasm.
Yep.
So no, in having a board state and maybe not swinging with the dragons.
That's the thing, is I think you don't like. Yeah, I see what you're saying about wanting to set up.
Yeah, you don't just put them out and swing. Maybe you set them up and then,
because it's not necessarily just an attack to pop a dragon. Like some dragons have 5 health, and it's like, fuck, that's 2 attacks I have to put into that thing. Like that's super annoying.
2 attacks, and if you ward one of them off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and now you've done
ward
nothing.
only works when you're about to take damage, right?
I think so, yeah. Because it's one of the dragon gains ward, which the next time you would be dealt damage, I think it pops.
Right. Yeah, you can't ward off damage going into one of your other dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look at the card. I forgot which one. But
that's interesting to me, because I think that I think we'll come out the gate. I think we come out of the gate with Phi hot, because that's the deck that's going to be aggressive and people will have to answer. I think Icelander and Dromai will take some time, but I also think that Phi has the potential to get like counter teeth kicked in by a lot of decks, because if you can just defend efficiently against him, it's like people are like, oh, the Phoenix Flames and the +1s, and you're like, cool. So he's going poke for 1, poke for 1, poke for 1. Like you could basically deck him at lightning speed if you just defend efficiently and don't let plays get extended and stuff sometimes.
I mean, I'll be honest, I've got to play.
He doesn't block back.
Yeah, I got to play before I see how any of this stuff plays out.
Right. I think my biggest thing with Fi is like even in sealed, because I don't think it changes much, because a lot of the cards that you play in Fi are going to be the cards you want to see in sealed. And the issue is there's so many 2-block cards, like so many 2-block cards, which I think is great design because he clearly wants to be an aggro deck. That's how he wants to play. So he wants to be like Cheerios Briar, and Briar has come back down to earth by them taking away her ability to block like absurd amounts of damage. So with him, he effectively doesn't have access to Flick Flack. So even his defense reactions, he's probably just going to run, if he ever ran them, would be like Sink Below, because there's no reason to run Flick Flack because he doesn't run combo cards. So since they don't say combo on the card, Flick Flack has no value, which means he can't block hyper efficient 9 damage off of a 4-block Flick Flack and then a 3-block combo card. So because of that, like he can't defend himself as well. He has a ton of 2-block cards and then no block cards, which is absolute, like nothing is better in sealed in Uprising than when you're like, yeah, I attack you, and the fire player just looks at you like, yeah, I'm pretty screwed here because they're holding 2 Phoenix Flames and 2 blocks, and it's like I have 4 cards that together block for 4 damage. Like I can stop 4 damage, and then you just deal like 20 to them. They're like, yeah, cool. I get to not play. This is fun.
I will say sealed felt really fun. Like sealed is really good. It's pretty well balanced. Not gonna lie. Like Fi doesn't feel overpowered. Honestly, of all of them, I think Dromai probably feels like she's got the most potential in sealed. Fi feels like the easiest choice. Like he's gonna be the best across the board for the majority of pools. If you're doing sealed, probably depending on like what your table is drafting, might be one of the better choices. But Dromai, if you let a Dromai player have whatever they want at the table, they're gonna fucking do some damage. Did you see Yuki's list that she drafted? Like that was wild. I'm like, that's a blitz deck. That's exactly what you want for her.
I think that's, to me, my biggest thing was after all the games of sealed and all the games of draft, I think the way that I would best describe the limited format in Uprising is if we're going sealed and you're just opening 6 packs and building, I is the easiest to build and the power level is naturally the highest and the easiest to get high, because even a subpar Fi deck has a lot of really like crazy interactions where you can extend plays way beyond what you should be able to in a sealed format. Then Icelander is the easiest to be in that middle ground where she just has to have enough blues. They don't even necessarily have to be the best blues. They just have to be blues, because a lot of the ice blues that are actions, you can just play them for the frostbite to try to disrupt and then zap them with enough spells and you can get over a Fi player. Dromai is the one who like desperately needs her cards to be the right cards in her packs for her to have a good sealed deck. Then when you move into draft, I feel like Fi stays the most laterally powerful. He doesn't really gain a lot of ground, but he doesn't really lose a lot of ground because his cards are so generically good. And Icelander gets a little bit better because she probably gets access to more ice cards. She gets drafted. She's typically 2 at the table versus 5, like Fi. And then Dromai gets the biggest power increase in draft versus sealed, because usually they're going to get 1 or 2 Dromais at the table, which means they're going to get a lot of dragons and a lot of red go again cards that are like 1s and 0s to give the dragon go again. And in sealed, it's a lot harder to deal with dragon spam. If they just put 2 big dragons and like 5 Ashwings on the table, it's like, I literally can't kill all of that. I don't have an answer in sealed.
Yep. As soon as they make like that 3rd Ashwing and throw like a big dragon or big attack and followed by 3 Ashwings, you're like, whoops. This is like I feel very similar to Dory getting counters on her Dawnblade. Like, wow.
Hard to reset it. It's hard to reset the board, like hard to reset the counters. It's hard to reset the board. In sealed,
especially because the limitation of 6s in the set, which I thought was really good balance too, because when I made my Dromai deck in the premiere, I didn't open any 6s. I was like, shit, what in this format is 6 power? And there's like the flex that you can bump to a 6. There's the warrior, the armored guys one. I can't remember what that one's called. And then there's the Fendal.
Fendal's Fighting Spirit.
Yeah.
And then Erase Face.
Oh, Erase Face. Yeah. A dude had 2 Erase Face. So I was playing as Dromai, and this guy popped 3 turns. I took damage because I was going to have a big tempo turn back. And I threw like an 8, like the 8 red Mirage, whatever, the 8 power one. And he popped it. And then so then I took a bunch of damage for nothing. Happened 2 more times. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I didn't get any. I didn't think that there were any 6s in this set.
Yeah, there are that many.
Yeah,
it's pretty low.
No, it was fun. It was a good time. Any final thoughts?
That's all I got till we test some more.
Yeah,
we'll
be testing.
Yeah,
we'll be testing for sure.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the results of that poll. Thank you everyone who participated. So Dromai is at 37% of people that voted. We had over 50 votes. 37% of people think that Dromai is going to be like the deck to beat. That Dromai is going to rise the highest in
highest
the
out of the 3.
competitive meta. Yep. And then 35% said Icelander, and only 28% said Fi. So
nice to Kano, man.
It's not a huge difference.
No, it's all right there. To be totally honest.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty accurate. They all
you're gonna be like 33%. Say
that's not how percentages work, Dane. No, I do. I'm most excited for Icelander. I'm most worried though as well. Like I think it's come up in all the conversations where it's like I don't know how she closes.
I was super excited for her. I'm much less excited for her because of the brain melt of making her properly.
I think that it's going to be a blast. I'm super excited. I'm going to solve that puzzle. I'm going to do it, boys.
Good luck to you. May the
Mm-hmm.
force be with you.
Thank you. Obi-Wan was sweet this week, by the way.
Sure was.
Kenobi, very good. Very good.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And check us out on Podbean. What we're going to start doing is little snippets, like the hot points, the best part of the episode that we think that we want to share the most with people. That's going to go on the YouTube. And then we're going to go over to Podbean for the full episode on Fridays. So check us out there. That link for whatever your podcast service is will be in the description. That's where you're going to get the full episode the soonest. And then at some point we'll be releasing like the unedited full video podcast for the people that want to watch that. But based on our numbers, it's not very many. So it's not going to be our priority. We're going to try and get like that shareable 10-minute clip out there as soon as possible. So thank you everybody for joining us for the participation on the community posts, and we will talk to y'all next week. Peace.